Welcome, you curious mind, to a deep dive into something truly remarkable. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating story of natural resilience and how one particular tree species is, well, transforming agriculture in some of the world's really challenging environments.
Yeah, we're talking about the incredible power of agroforestry,
Yeah.
and specifically focusing on a tree that has farmers in semi-arid regions really rethinking how they manage their land, not just to survive, but actually thrive, even with escalating drought.
So, our mission today is to explore the why and the how behind the solution. We're digging into a whole stack of scientific sources, articles, research papers, reports detailing the unique capabilities of a tree called Faidherbia albida. And we want to tell you what it all means for, food security and adapting to climate change.
Right. Imagine a tree that sheds its leaves when all the others are leafy. And then when most trees are bare, it stands green, providing sustenance and shade. That's just one of the sort of surprising things we'll uncover about this so-called miracle tree.
Hmm. Maybe let's start with the big picture.
Drought. It's not just a local problem anymore, it's a rapidly growing global challenge. It's severely impacting agriculture, water resources, especially in those arid and semi-arid regions. And the projections show these vulnerable areas are, well, they're set to expand under climate change. This threatens food security for millions, hundreds of millions. And a direct consequence we're seeing is groundwater depletion, which really highlights an urgent need for sustainable land management.
Okay, so the problem's getting worse, much worse. And we need innovative solutions, something beyond just traditional farming methods. So how does agroforestry step in here? What does that actually involve?
For agroforestry, it's essentially the intentional integration of trees and shrubs right into crop and animal farming systems. It's designed intentionally, managed intensively, its components are integrated, and it's ecologically interactive. Trees within these systems, they help moderate extreme temperatures, they buffer heavy rainfall, and crucially, they improve soil moisture retention. This makes the whole system just much more resilient to drought.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's bring in the star of our deep dive, Faidherbia albida. What makes this specific tree so special in fighting drought?
Faidherbia. It's native to Africa, sometimes called white acacia or apple ring acacia. It really stands out. It grows fast, up to 30 meters tall, and it provides multiple resources, fodder for animals, fuel wood, timber. It helps prevent soil erosion, promotes biodiversity. What's really amazing is it thrives in climates with long, dry seasons. It can tolerate waterlogging, salinity, conditions that would kill most other trees. And its adoption is quite widespread. Think 5 million hectares in Niger alone, with densities up to 150 trees per hectare. That really shows its practical benefits on the ground.
Right, here's where I think it gets really interesting. Because Faidherbia albida has some, well, unique physiological tricks up its sleeve, doesn't it? Almost counterintuitive ones.
Absolutely. Its resilience isn't just luck. It stems from several pretty remarkable adaptations. It's almost like it's built differently. First off, its hallmark, reverse phenology. This means F. albida keeps its leaves during the dry season and then sheds them right at the start of the rainy season, typically between March and September in some areas.
Hang on. That's completely backward compared to most trees, so it's bare when the crops are actually growing?
Exactly. And that inverted cycle is brilliant. It minimizes competition with the annual crops for light, water, nutrients right during their critical growth period. So it creates a more favorable little microenvironment underneath just when the crops need it. Then conversely, during the hot, dry season when everything else is dormant, F. albida is in full leaf. It's photosynthesizing, providing crucial shade and high-quality fodder. A single tree can produce, get this, between 40 and 330 kilograms of pods per year. And those pods have like 40% crude protein. Vital stuff for livestock in the dry season. Measurements in Senegal actually show its dry season evapotranspiration rates are around 3 to 5 millimeters a day. So it's helping create a microclimate without sucking the topsoil dry. Its whole cycle seems controlled by day length and soil moisture sensors, keeping its roots active year-round to tap those deep water sources.
Wow. And speaking of roots,
Yes, the deep root system. It's extraordinary. F. albida develops this extensive taproot, reaching depths of, well, easily 7 meters. But some studies report penetration of 20 to 40 meters, even more, right down into groundwater aquifers. This lets it access water that annual crops they simply can't reach.
so while the crops are sort of sipping from the surface, this tree is plumbing the depths, tapping into hidden water reserves. That's a fundamentally different game plan.
Precisely. And isotopic analysis confirms it relies on groundwater during the dry spells. Its pre-dawn leaf water potentials, that's basically a measure of plant water stress,
Yeah.
they stay remarkably stable near Deja 0.5 megapascals. which signals it's effectively avoiding drought stress. In fact, some studies suggest drought conditions actually trigger faster and deeper root growth. It reinforces its ability to sort of escape the drought. It's also got this flexible water strategy, sometimes called facultative phreatophytism, which basically means it can switch between using deep groundwater and then using surface water when it's available, like after rains.
Okay, deep roots, weird leaf cycle. What about water use overall? You'd think a big tree would use a lot.
That's another surprise, its water efficiency. Remarkably, F. albida uses less than 5% of the annual rainfall. That's roughly 40,000 liters per tree per year. This low water use is key because it minimizes competition with the crops for that surface water.
That is surprising. A big leafy tree in the dry season, but it's actually incredibly efficient with water, not the water hog you might expect.
Indeed. Its transpiration rates, they're high when conditions are good, but they decline quite a bit as the dry season progresses. Its somatal conductance, how much the leaf pores open, can drop by 50% at certain dryness levels. It's a key water-saving move, like it has an internal water meter.
Any other tricks?
Yeah, there's also osmotic adjustment. It accumulates these low molecular weight solids, like sugars and amino acids, inside its cells. This helps maintain cell turgor, keeps the cells plump, and maintains the water potential gradient even when things get dry. It helps sustain functions like keeping the stomata open just enough, even during dehydration.
Okay, so mature trees. Absolute drought resistance champions. But you hinted earlier at a seedling paradox. Tell me about that. Does this mighty tree start out, well, vulnerable? That seems important if you're trying to plant them.
It is. It's a crucial nuance. While the mature trees are incredibly tough, studies show Faidherbia seedlings actually have a very low tolerance to drought.
Mm.
The young plants close their stomata very quickly, even with only moderate water decreases. This leads to high mortality rates, sometimes over 60% in trials.
Wow.
So yeah, this developmental shift, it highlights a real bottleneck for reforestation efforts. It underscores the need for specific management strategies when they're young, maybe supplemental water, protection from grazing animals, things like that.
Got it. So beyond the tree itself, how does it affect the whole farming system?
Right, the resilience goes beyond just the tree's own traits. It extends outwards, really benefiting the entire agricultural system. One huge impact is transforming the soil. Under its canopy, F. albida significantly improves soil properties. The leaf and pod litter, plus livestock dung from animals seeking shade. It all boosts soil organic matter. This reduces soil compaction, improves porosity, and enhances water infiltration and retention, basically turns the soil into a kind of living sponge.
So it's not just about the water the tree itself uses, but how it changes the soil to hold water better for the crops. That's a system-level improvement.
Exactly. In sandy soils, for instance, infiltration rates can be like 14 millimeters per minute under the canopy compared to maybe 11.6 outside. In Burkina Faso, they measured 45 millimeters per hour under trees versus just 15 in open fields.
Huge difference.
Yeah. And the shade reduces surface evaporation too, conserving moisture. Soils in Senegal under Faidherbia showed 73% higher moisture retention after 10 days without rain. Overall, the tree can actually have a net positive effect on the water balance, potentially contributing something like 26% of annual precipitation back to the water table through improved infiltration.
Amazing. What about temperature?
That's the local climate control effect. The canopies provide significant shade, reducing air and soil temperatures by maybe 2 to 6 degrees Celsius underneath them. That directly lessens heat stress on the crops and cuts down excessive evapotranspiration.
So the crops get their own little microclimate, like a cool, humid bubble provided by the tree.
That's a great analogy. And F. albida also acts as a windbreak, reducing wind erosion and further cutting evaporative water loss. Shelter belts have been shown to lower evapotranspiration by maybe 15–30%. This whole combined effect lets crops maintain higher water potential, stay more stable, even during short dry spells.
Okay, buddy soil, cooler temps. What about nutrients? You mentioned it's leguminous.
Right, the nutrient alchemy. As a legume, it fixes atmospheric nitrogen via root nodules, which significantly enriches the soil. Nitrogen levels under these trees can be over 200% higher than in open fields.
Wow, like a built-in fertilizer factory working away underground?
It really is, and that unique reverse phenology comes in again. The nitrogen-rich leaves and pods drop during the rainy season, perfectly timed with peak crop nutrient demand. This litterfall enriches the topsoil with organic matter and other key nutrients like phosphorus. This continuous organic input in dense stands can be comparable to adding almost 50 tons of manure per hectare per year. It significantly boosts soil organic content, cuts the need for synthetic fertilizers, and creates these literal fertility islands around the trees.
Incredible. You also mentioned deep roots helping nearby crops. How does that work exactly?
Ah, yes. Hydraulic redistribution, or sometimes called hydraulic lift. This is fascinating. It's the passive movement of water by the tree roots. They draw water from moist, deep soil layers, and then some of it leaks out into drier, shallow layers, often at night. This effectively makes some of that deep water available to the shallow-rooted crops nearby.
So the tree is basically sharing its deep water stash with its neighbors. That's an amazing partnership, a direct boost for them.
It's a fantastic synergy. Isotopic studies in Ethiopia show that 15 to 30% of the moisture under Faidherbia canopies actually originates from these deep layers. This supports the crop roots' microbial activity, nutrient uptake right in the root zone, the rhizosphere, and is particularly beneficial during times of high water demand for the crops.
Okay, any other bonuses?
Definitely. Carbon sequestration and biodiversity. These agroforestry systems contribute to climate change mitigation. They take up significant CO2 during the dry season and store carbon in biomass. Studies estimate the trees store around 2 tons of carbon per hectare just in their above-ground parts, with maybe another 34 tons per hectare stored in the soil under the canopy. Some national initiatives using this tree aim for about 7.2 tons of CO2 sequestration per hectare per year. Plus, they provide critical ecosystem services, forage, fruit, shelter, and maintain a higher density of woody plants, which supports local biodiversity.
Okay, so we've got all these interconnected mechanisms, the reverse phenology, deep roots, water sharing, soil building, climate control, nutrient cycling. What does this actually mean for the farmers, for their harvests, especially when drought hits?
It translates into real, measurable improvements in agricultural productivity, especially under drought conditions. We see the albida effect documented widely. F. albida consistently increases yields of intercrop cereals, maize, sorghum, millet. Farmers in places like Malawi, Tanzania, Zambia report maize yields doubling, sometimes even tripling under the tree canopy. Some studies show increases up to 280%. In Niger, millet yields were around 36% greater, with some reports showing 2.5 to 3.4 times the grain and protein content.
Wow, doubling or tripling yields.
And what's really fascinating, and maybe most important, is that these benefits are often most critical during drought years. While drought might slash yields in conventional systems, fields with F. albida often show the largest relative gains in low rainfall years or on poorer soils.
Yeah.
For example, in Malawi, maize yields under F. albida during a drought year were 5 times higher than in adjacent open fields.
5 times.
Yeah. Millet and sorghum show 50–90% greater yield stability in these parklands. And Ethiopian barley showed 82% higher income security under trees during dry years.
That stability point is huge. It's not just about bigger harvests sometimes, it's about much more reliable harvests, especially when farmers need that stability the most. It really is like natural drought insurance built into the farm.
Exactly. And beyond crops, the system provides crucial livelihood safety nets, those pods and leaves. Vital, high-quality fodder for livestock. When pastures dry up in the dry season, that's huge. Pruned branches provide fuel wood. Surplus pods or wood can be sold, diversifying income. In some systems in Cameroon, it meets up to 25% of village wood energy needs, which also reduces the time women spend collecting firewood.
Are there widespread examples of this working in practice?
Oh yes, the practical application is clear across the Sudano-Sahelian zone. Niger, Malawi, Zambia, Ethiopia, Burkina Faso, Mali, Senegal, many places. A key driver has been something called farmer-managed natural regeneration, or FMNR. This is where farmers actively protect and manage the young F. albida seedlings that pop up naturally on their land. It's a low-cost, farmer-led approach. In northern Cameroon, for instance, FMNR led to a 30–50% increase in crop yields during the 2018–2020 droughts. And Ethiopia has even set a national target to plant 100 million F. albida trees, specifically leveraging their drought resilience and carbon benefits.
It sounds incredibly promising, but are there challenges, roadblocks to wider adoption, areas needing more research?
Absolutely. Despite all these compelling benefits, wider adoption faces hurdles, and there are definitely critical research frontiers. For one, there are still some unanswered questions about the precise hydrological interactions. We know F. albida has deep roots, but its exact impact on the overall water balance, including water movement in the Veados zone, that soil layer above the water table, needs more direct measurement, more empirical validation. Understanding the complex interplay between the microclimate under the tree, grazing, pruning practices, and how that affects crop water use and yield, that's crucial for really optimizing management.
And that brings us back to the seedling issue, right? The vulnerable start. If they're hard to establish, that's a major barrier to scaling up planting efforts.
Exactly. That seedling vulnerability is a major bottleneck. Their high mortality rates, really challenge large-scale propagation. So future research really needs to focus on exploring the genetics variation. Are some Faidherbia provenances naturally more drought tolerant as seedlings? And developing targeted management practices, better nursery techniques, maybe temporary irrigation, better protection from browsing animals to get them through that fragile early stage.
What about the human side, socioeconomic factors?
Yeah, people and policy are huge. Adoption faces socioeconomic barriers, things like high initial establishment costs, maybe limited access to credit or finance for farmers, and sometimes inadequate extension services to provide guidance. Social and cultural factors like traditional land tenure systems can also sometimes hinder tree planting. Securing clear land tenure and legal rights for farmers over the trees and their products is absolutely essential if they're going to make that long-term investment.
Right. So it's not just about the science of the tree itself. It's equally about supporting the farmers and communities, making sure the policies and support structures are there,
Yes.
integrating the science with the social reality.
Precisely. There's a growing recognition we need integrated approaches, combining scientific innovations with local knowledge and practices, really co-creating knowledge with farmers. Key research priorities moving forward include things like systematically quantifying that hydraulic redistribution effect, optimizing tree density, and pruning for different rainfall zones, understanding the genetics for better seedlings, precisely quantifying the microclimate effects, and developing better predictive models, maybe integrating remote sensing data. And finally, that socio-ecological research is vital, addressing policy barriers, exploring effective extension models, integrating traditional ecological knowledge, all crucial for promoting wider uptake.
This deep dive has really been eye-opening. Faidherbia albida, it's just incredible. From its frankly bizarre reverse leaf cycle to its deep diving roots and all the system-wide benefits, it's a true natural wonder. It offers so many lessons in resilience.
It's more than just a wonder, though. It's a powerful, scientifically validated strategy, a way to enhance drought resilience, transform vulnerable farming systems into more resilient agroecosystems, and ultimately help ensure food security in our changing climate.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Well, it means that even as we face escalating global challenges like drought, nature offers ingenious solutions, often counterintuitive ones. It also reminds us that sometimes the most effective strategies come from really understanding and working with the surprising wisdom of the natural world, not just trying to engineer our way out of problems.
And maybe it leaves us with this provocative thought to mull over. If this one tree, Faidherbia albida, can have such a profound and transformative impact on an entire ecosystem and the livelihoods within it, what other overlooked natural allies might be out there waiting for us to discover, understand, and thoughtfully integrate into our quest for a truly sustainable future?